Volume 10 Epilogue. Demiurge walked happily through the 9th floor of the great underground tomb of Nazarick. The sensation of returning after a long time was probably an illusion of some sort. After all, he returned to this place from time to time, and the longest stretch of time he had been away from here was a fortnight at the most. Thus, the reason for his misperception was clearly due to the joy he felt at walking through this place. His mood lifted the closer he got to his objective. Demiurge paid no heed to the guards Cositus had stationed on either side of the doors as he adjusted his tie and inspected his appearance. Naturally, he paid attention to it at all times, but he did not want his master to see a side of him which was less than immaculate. After a very earnest inspection of his personal grooming, Demiurge knocked on the door of the room. One of the maids opened the door, poking her head out to see who was calling. Demiurge wanted to try and spy out a glimpse of his master through the gap, but he could not do anything that embarrassing. "May I know if Ainsama is in his room?" "My sincerest apologies, Demiurge Sama. Ainsama is not in." His mood plummeted, but he did not let it show on his face. "Is that so? Then, where has Ainsama gone?" "My sincerest apologies, I do not know. However, Albedo-sama might know something about it." She was right. "Really now? Then, where is Albedo now?" "She is in this room." Demiurge knew Albedo treated her master's room as her workroom. "Can't you just use the room you've been assigned?" he often thought, but after considering her personality, he ended up keeping quiet. The most important thing was his master's approval. With that, there was nothing else for him to add. "Is she working? Could you help me check if this is a convenient time to visit?" "Understood." The door before him closed. A moment later, it opened again. "Please come in, Demiurge-sama." Demiurge thanked the maid and then entered. Before his eyes was the guardian overseer, seated on a chair in front of his master's desk. Her lowered line of sight moved, and caught hold of Demiurge. "It's been a while, Albedo." "Ah, Demiurge. You've worked hard abroad. What is it today?" "Ah, it concerns the matter in the Holy Kingdom. I was planning to obtain permission for the final stages of the plan. I will need a doppelganger." "Where is Ainsama?" "He is somewhat far away. I doubt he will be able to return quickly." "In other words, he is not in Erantal," Demiurge mused. Otherwise she would not describe it in such a strange way. "That is somewhat of an inconvenience. Then, I shall perform preparation work on the 7th floor until Ainsama returns. If it is urgent, could you not communicate with message?" Demiurge frowned, and observed Albedo's expression. She had her usual smile on, but the perceptive Demiurge detected some other emotion within her. If she was just toying with him, it would be fine. Demiurge attempted to quickly study her, but he could not read that deeply. It ached at him, but then again, this was not a contest in the first place. Among all the people of Nazarick, the only two people he could not read were his master and Albedo. He set them aside as rare exceptions for the sake of his inner peace. Demiurge shrugged. "It is not that urgent. If Ainsama returns the day after, I shall inform him myself." Ainsama did not mention how long he would be gone. "He might take a very long time. Then, I shall go to Ainsama's side, Albedo. It is not a matter which requires the use of message." "Ara. Why is that? If it is truly important, would it not be more loyal to inform him as soon as possible?" The context of Albedo's smile had changed. Earlier, it was her usual fake smile, but now it was a wicked, bullying smile. She must have some sort of ill intent in mind. It would seem there was something she wanted to say, no matter what. How tiresome, Demiurge thought as he stated his reasons. I desire to display my achievements to Ain Sama, so I do not wish to use such methods to contact him. While I can receive his praise through a message, in the end, I would still prefer to hear his voice in person. That is all. Is that not the shared dream for all in Nazarick? Indeed, Demiurge. It is as you say. Anyone would feel that way. Then, where has Ain Sama gone? He has gone to visit the Dwarf Kingdom, about which little is known and which has not made diplomatic contact until now. Thus, we do not know how much time it will take. Who accompanies him? Shaltir and Aura. That should be fine in terms of combat strength. However, other aspects were more worrisome. Aura was fine. All she need to do was not inconvenience Ain Sama. Yet, the face of the other person appeared in Demiurge's mind. Still, by bringing Shaltir along, does he intend to destroy the Dwarf Kingdom? Mare would have been a much better choice for verbal negotiations. Thus, that choice was made for other reasons. What are the other Guardians doing? Cositus is managing the lake. Mare is building a dungeon outside Erantal. Sebas is carrying out his duties in Erantal. Although I do not know what Ain Sama intends, the fact that he did not bring an army along would suggest a peaceful visit. No. There is insufficient information for that. Why did Ain Sama want to go to the Dwarf Kingdom? Demiurge. We cannot predict Ain Sama's thoughts. It was as Albedo said. His master, Ain Zulgaun, was the supreme ruler of Nazarick, who concealed countless stratagems within a single move of a chess piece. Demiurge, who had been created with outstanding talents, could not even hope to graze the souls of his brilliance with his outstretched hands. Attempting to read his master's motivations was a mistake. That said, sensing his master's will and preparing for it was a mark of true loyalty. If I don't work hard enough. As Demiurge rebuilt his conviction once more, Albedo picked up a piece of parchment from the table. This came from the Empire yesterday. I opened it after receiving Ain Sama's permission via message. It contains an offer of vassalage from the Empire. The exact details of the vassalization are to be finalized later. Demiurge was shocked. This was much earlier than he had anticipated. What's this? According to my predictions, the Empire should only have offered to be vassals after the kingdom was destroyed. That is the result of Ain Sama's visit to the Empire. This is, as expected of Ain Sama. Say, Demiurge, did you really think the Empire would only become a vassal after the kingdom would? Of course. That was how I planned it. Regardless of what methods used. What are you trying to say? Ain Sama often mentioned your name. It came up in the context of "Did you hear from Demiurge?" Then it should be all right. In other words, there was something about your plan which he could not accept. What are you saying? Albedo, why didn't you tell me earlier? If that's the case. If what is the case? Demiurge could not speak. Let me ask you again. Was there no way to make the Empire a vassal before the kingdom? There was. However, it would have required Ain Sama himself to act. It would be a shameful course of action for a subordinate to advise. In addition, I felt that it would require the execution of several methods requiring at least a month in order to cause a violent upheaval within a large city. That being the case, I believed that it would have been better to begin by subjugating the kingdom and then applying pressure on other areas. How long did Ain Sama take? I was in the kingdom, so I am not sure, but I think it was 3 days at the most. Demiurge's eyes went wide. That was too fast. How had he demonstrated his subjugating might? How had he broken the will of the emperor, who sought to ally with other nations? Although Demiurge had prepared a perfect plan that would render the emperor unable to take action, his master seemed to have crafted a scheme which surpassed even that. 3 days. How did he do that? Incidentally, there were almost no casualties. His gaping mouth felt like it had been stoppered. All he felt was an unstoppable flow of admiration and respect for that absolute ruler. He was like death itself, quietly standing behind the emperor and then crushing his heart. The trembling he felt just now spread from the top of his head to his entire body. Savage delight, admiration, fear and respect mixed within him, and this complex blend of emotions made Demiurge shudder without end. As expected of Ain Sama, someone like me could not hope to even approach him. He is truly a peerless and perfect master. Nobody else could have led the supreme beings. I cannot help but envy Pandora's actor, even if just a little. Albedo went coo, her smile full of superiority. It must have been a sense of superiority a woman felt when she was ordered to love such a marvelous man. In addition, Ain Sama has ordered us to decide how to handle the vassalage of the kingdom. Ordered us? Why? Is that not obvious? Much of the developments in this field have been due to the use of your plan, Demiurge. Even so, Ain Sama said nothing to you and pushed the vassalization of the empire forward with his own plan. Thus, his heart ached. He could not understand that. WashOurWorldAudio.com. Perhaps if he was displeased at his own incompetence, he could understand that. But not this. Why? I do not understand. Albedo sighed tiredly. It is because he trusts you. In other words, how shall I put this? You should be able to understand it with that mind of yours, but this is probably how it is. Not following your plan is equivalent to doubting your abilities. Ain Sama awaited your communication because he did not want to do that. However, Ain Sama felt you were too concerned about him. Thus, his independent action was meant to tell you, "Don't worry about me, I believe." It was an answer he could accept. No, it would be better to say there could be no other answer but that. This truly is. Demiurge lowered his face in shame. At the same time, he was filled with delight after he realized how his master hadn't thought of him. Demiurge, we must work to repay Ain Sama's kindness. Of course, Albedo. Demiurge was excited. In order to fulfill Ain Sama's expectations, let us finish a vassalage plan for the kingdom for him to see before he returns. Indeed, Ain Sama has gone in person, so there must be many schemes in store. He will surely be busy once he returns from the Dwarven Kingdom. Demiurge grinned. Indeed, Albedo. Indeed. End chapter. Overlord Volume 10 Afterword. Thanks to Riskianon for typesetting this image. Translator, Nigel. Editors, proofreaders, M. Afterword. A man should not give excuses. I heard these words once. I will not say anything. However, please allow me to say one thing. If my memory serves me correctly, the current date should be 17th month of 2015, right? Also, I recall hearing someone say, pre-arrangements are not fixed, thus they aren't the same as the final outcome. What a charming phrase. How full of romance it is. I'm very sorry. Volume 11 will not be like this one. There is no intention of making you wait, so I hope everyone can find it in themselves to forgive me. Also, the next volume is, well, anyone who's read all the way to the end, it can't be helped if it's written down. In addition, Volume 11 will feature a much-awaited special edition. Anyone who's seen the anime will understand. It's a new 30-minute long episode of Pure Pleiades, isn't that surprising? Then, how do you feel after reading Volume 10, everyone? How different is running a country from running an organization? Ain started from his interests, but how would you all do it? Maruyama is very interested in the answer. If it were me, I would do this. If it were me, I would do that. I would be very glad to hear everyone's opinions on that matter. And if it should turn out that someone created another work based on this, or even another original light novel, I would be even more delighted. Because in truth, that's Maruyama for you. And then, you already know of the popularity poll from the tail end of the book. Please tell me the characters you like best. Unlike ordinary popularity polls, the fact that the first place is already decided is something which has never been seen before. I won't give extra appearances to unexpectedly popular characters. This is simply to see which characters everyone likes best. Next, the people I want to thank. WashOurWorldAudio.com. Sorry for ruining your schedule, Sobin-sama. Thank you very much for this. My sincere thanks to Ohaku-sama, the proofreader, the designers, Chord Design Studio-sama, and the editor, F-Dar-sama. Also to Honey, my friend from my student days, thank you as always. Most importantly, thank you to all you readers out there. The story is now completely divorced from the WN, so I would be very happy if you liked it. 2015 17th. Maruyama Kugane End Chapter